Hey everyone, Ian Henderson here, working on the virtual panel presentation. I decided to do the topic sports for children should be non-competitive, things that, sports not focused on winning or losing. I thought this was very relatable to myself as, I am a coach. So here we go. So, with this topic, we're going to go over some pros and some cons. We're going to start with some positives, some pros of the non competitive sports, kind of the theory of it. Um, the first thing we see is that it promotes kind of an inclusion and participation within the sport. Um, no matter how the talent is on the team itself, all ages and all people are still welcome to participate. And it really, shifts its focus, towards, the kids actually getting better and, making sure that they're enjoying getting better at the same time. Rather than just, how they play and, if we win or lost the game. Another pro to this could be, it's going to enhance, them using each other and really building a good team. Teamwork and just that cooperation of how they interact is, very, positive in this light. So, it really, like I said, prioritizes, them, working and building together towards, a certain goal than rather it just be all about me. It's really about that we factor. It really, when you think about teamwork, it really helps the kids socialize, right? And so that, teaches them, values, right? Social values and, just supporting one another really, helps their social skills and become more comfortable around other children. So another pro to it is that you see more people, it encourages them to stay in sports for, a longer period of time, even for a lifetime. Um, it really builds that foundation for your physical fitness and your health without having to, feel like, it's too much, right? You don't want to burn out from these things, which, you can see with, it being competitive and having that mindset of winning and losing. You can really burn out from that hardcore, just intense, feeling of it. And just, focusing on it being fun and enjoyable for children really can, impact their future with, an interest in not just the sport they're playing, but all sports. If it's fun, they're gonna want to explore, other sports, some that they maybe a little bit better at just naturally, and that'll allow them to, have even more fun. Another pro to this, our fourth one, is that it reduces your stress and just the pressure of the game itself. Really, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of mental games that are played when you think about competitive sports, and you can really eliminate that anxiety and that stress that comes along with that, by just eliminating that winning and losing factor, early on with these children. It really just encourages them to work on themselves and figure out how, what the best way to have fun, but also progress in getting it better and, creating their own goals for themselves and, really achieving them. Rather than just, all these, the winning and losing, the external outcomes of the whole thing, right? So the last pro we're going to kind of go over is, I mentioned it a little bit, was, the mental health of it all, right? If we use this, perspective, it's going to improve that mental health. You don't have that heavy emphasis on that hardcore competition, and that can really, reduce feelings of the deficiency and the failure, kind of over time. This also, the environment that you're able to play in is also going to be way more positive. It's going to be less pressure on you, and that physical activity is just going to be a lot more positive. It's not going to be as stressful, and having that improved mental state is going to help them have fun, and it's going to help them progress at the same time. So moving on to some cons of non-competitive sports. We look at the first one. It kind of relates to the real world, right? You're lacking the real world challenge and the preparation that the real world may, impact some of the kids. Competition is one of those things that, you just naturally learn. And, taking that away from them could really, hinder the resiliency and, the adaptation that they may, come along to in these different situations with these sports. They really miss out on how to deal with that failure and the success at the same time, which this can also lead to how they deal with future situations in life. Like, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's you're going to hit bumps and curves, and being able to deal with those things starts early. And I think if they were able to be in sports where it's something they may love to do, and if they can come across that adversity, adversity makes diamonds. It really does. Moving on to the second con we have here is it kind of limits your skill development. I know we talked about it a little bit for pros, but it also limits it a little bit as well, because being in a competitive environment is going to push you over and over, to be better, to have new and better techniques, to find different ways to get around things in a better manner to help you win. That lack of that competition, it can kind of slow the pace of that improvement. And that's just one of those big things that if you don't have non-competitive sports, then you're going to lack that skill development, whereas other kids may be just a little bit ahead of you. So moving on to the next con, I think this is like a very, very important one. You really miss out on lessons in things like sportsmanship. We're always preaching sportsmanship in these younger sports, and I think that it's important that we learn how to win with respect and with a lot of grace, and lose with a lot of dignity. Keeping your head up high. It's really one of those things in sports that you want to teach young, and it's really the most important thing that you want to teach young. So these children might not be able to develop the important social skills tied to this competitive play, which might not put them in a situation where they can have sportsmanship, right? We see all the time where you're in a game or you're playing really hard and somebody gets knocked down, and everybody's looking around. Well, why don't you just go help them up? We see that all the time in sports, and that little thing is so big, when it comes to the real world. And then at the end of games, we want to enhance on always, shaking hands, after a really tough, hard game. It could be a rivalry, but after the clock hits 0, we want to make sure we're shaking hands. So, you want to make sure that even though we're winning and we're losing, we know how to still provide that sportsmanship. Moving on to the next one is it may reduce a children's motivation to play sports. Without that competition and that just natural adversity and that adrenaline rush, children might not be as motivated to, improve their own individual skills and help improve their team win. Really pushing themselves to be the best version of themselves. This, when this happens, it can lead to them being bored and taking up other things that, may not be as healthy. Being real complacent and in one space, you don't have that real achievement. And, we want to make sure that they always stay motivated and, using it as, if you're winning and you're losing, you can always get better. And if you're winning, that's always fun for kids. So, taking that away will definitely reduce their motivation to want to play and to get better at the same time. So moving on to the last con here is kind of goes hand in hand with motivation, right? Um, which is, you're going to have a reduced excitement and the engagement that you are in within that sport. The feeling of that competition again is what makes sports exciting and engaging at the same time, right? Competition really can live up to a very high intense game where you have a buzzer beater or you have a great play that's made that can really follow and put you in different steps towards the future. You know with it being reduced with non-competitive things, some children might lose that interest without having that actual challenge and being able to experience those adrenaline boosts, those game winning moments that come with that competitive play. And so we want to always keep it exciting and engaging, and I think we can do that even with competitive sports. So moving on to my thoughts and my opinion on the pros and cons. I'm kind of on the con side, and I lean towards more competitive sports. I believe it's important that we have sports that are competitive and that focus on winning and losing. It really teaches so much about life that the kids are going to need. I've coached many players that have grown from ninth to 12th grade, and their difference just from being in a basketball program from ninth grade to 12th grade, they've just matured in so many different ways, from being respectful, from following their dreams, setting a goal and actually achieving it is something that is unbelievable. And the amount of lessons that they learn through basketball or any sport in general is just a prime example of the competitive sports. We face so much adversity. You lose a lot of games, but I like to tell my kids and the people that I coach that you don't lose, you learn, right? And you never want to use it as a negative. You always want to use it as a positive. And I think that's ways where you can use competitive sports in a positive manner, right? It doesn't always have to be negative, right? And there's going to be negative moments, but it's all about how you respond to them. And so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think competitive play is very important when they're younger. And that doesn't mean we can't have a focus on teamwork and some of those things that are positive in the pros when it comes from not non-competitive things. It just means that I think the importance of the competitive sports is definitely higher than it being non-competitive for sure, especially how you do it. Overall, I thought this project was very, very relatable to myself, and I really learned a lot about both sides, the pros and cons of both of them. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you.